Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dogs and cats, elephants and zebras, gypsies and the she. Sorry, I had to bring that box in, and I don't remember what's in it, so I think it's empty now, so we can either throw it out or we can put something in it. It's amazing, all the stuff we got rid of when we did the clean out, somehow, some way, we can still find things to get rid of. So, since I'm not making as many videos as I used to, I'm not saying things. Sorry about my hair. We both had appointments today, and anyway, it's not, typical. Well, it's actually not that hot in the 80s. Well, here in New Hampshire, we'll have a short period of time in the summer where it hits 100 or more, and then the temperature goes back down, and then it goes down into the 70s, into the 80s, maybe into the 90s. So it definitely goes into the 90s. The thing is that really short summer that we have is miserable. So we're in late summer, I guess you would say. It's August, so it is summertime still. But anyway, so I was watching The Pink Man, and I was watching some of his videos, and he was doing George Gilman or whatever. I remember that dude. Believe it or not, I remember that dude. I don't remember why I remember him exactly, but I remember him. Probably because I thought it was a bunch of BS. Because I've taken martial arts in my life, and you cannot walk up to somebody and go, "Boo!" and knock them out. Sorry, it doesn't happen that way. I've never knocked anybody out. I've knocked people down. I've never knocked anybody out, and I really don't want to. But the Pink Man was talking about ki, or chi, or however you want to pronounce it. When I was taking Wing Chun, my sifu, or teacher, and I won't say the name of the school, and I won't say even what city it was in. He did this exercise with us one day, and he said, had a few of us line up, close our eyes, and put our hands together like that, or like that. And then he walked down the line. He didn't know which side he was starting at, and he would do this. They put his hand between your hands, and you could feel it. You could literally feel the break in the energy between the two hands. My eyes were closed. I can't hear very well to begin with, so I did not know he was in front of me. He did this, or did it once. I guess he did it once. I don't know.
Hey,
what, hon?
Can you just reach right here and pull this down for me?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Hey, I'll show you later. She was a video when she told me she was pregnant, and the little girl was so happy and everything. And he acted like he was so happy and shit.
So anyway, Sifu went and put his hand between our hands. He said, "You feel anything?" I was like, "Wow, yeah." And then he was explaining ki to us, and that was part of that lesson. And so again, I did not see him or hear him come up to me, so I did not know he was there in front of me. And he wasn't doing this to each person down the line, but he did come down the line. And really weird, man, really weird. So I think there may be something to ki, to energy. I don't know, but I don't believe it's. You see that? It's a beard hair. There are beard hairs all over southwestern New Hampshire. These beard hairs. How long that is. So, I had my one of my tests today. The tech said it looked okay. She will be electronically sending the EKG to the doctor, probably already has, and that doctor has probably sent it to the other doctor. But I doubt either doctor got it today, although the one might have. Actually, the one is a nurse practitioner, advanced nurse practitioner. But whoops. So sorry, I was petting Lucky. What I was going to say, since I was watching those videos, and he was talking about George Dillman or whatever his name is. I don't know if I could do it anymore, but with a single punch in middle school, I knocked kids that were quite a bit larger than me to the ground. That was a long time ago. From what, 45 years ago? 45 years ago? Come on, John. John, you want to say hi to the world? Say, hey there, world. John, you are a good boy. Yes, you are. And he says, I'm the mighty hunter. I cannot stay still. I have to go see what there is in this world. You gonna get up there, big boy? Okay, there you go. Walking around behind the monitor and getting in the window. So in middle school, like I said, I don't think I've ever knocked anybody out. And it's been many, many, many years since I've been in a fight. Many, many years. I hope I never get into another one. In the institutions that I grew up in, violence was an everyday occurrence. If it didn't happen in your dorm, it happened probably in all the other dorms. And the one thing they were talking about was pain and pressure points and that sort of thing. John, can you come on over? Thank you, big boy. Pressure points are a tricky thing because most pressure points you're not going to hit in a fight. It's just not going to happen. It's a bunch of BS. It's not going to happen. I once saw a video of a karate master on Okinawa. Now he attacked a vital point on someone's body. He could not have done that in a fight. The only reason he could do it is that the person was laying down, their arms were out, and he could get right to the point. And now when he did it, the person was like, oh! But, sorry, you're not going to hit these places in a fight. This just doesn't happen. If you knock somebody out, from my understanding, somewhere up in this area of the head, that's a good place to knock somebody out. I had never aimed up there. I aimed down here. One kid, I might feel bad for him now. Then again, I may not, because I don't know what his situation was. Me and some other kids were in the dorm room. My bedroom in the dorm. And we had a t-shirt, and we were using it as like a football. And this dude comes in there and just tackles me and this other guy. He was the dorm bully. And I was afraid of him. I'll tell you that. I was afraid of him. I mean, this old boy, you could be on opposite ends of the dorm, and he'd do it. But it usually happened in the hallway. You'd be at one, because my room was on the very end of the hallway, and his was on the other side of the hall, and one room over. But our rooms were not directly across from each other; they were staggered. And he comes in here, he tackles me and this one old boy, and I just get up and I just start, I hit him in the face a few times, and I got up, I grabbed him, I threw him up against the wall. I pulled my arm back. Never pull your arm back like that, because you're signaling to the person that you're about to hit him. You can, when your fist is right there, you can still hit. You don't need to bring it back. You bring it back, they know you're going to hit. They can block you. They can duck. They can dodge. They can do whatever. They can hit you first. So I brought my arm back, and like I said, I was a decent fighter at the time, and I should have known better than that. But I was pissed off. I wasn't thinking a whole lot at that point. I was pissed off, and I was going to hurt this kid. And I would have too. That's the sad thing, is I really would have. But he went down on his knees. Well, he didn't sit on his knees, but he squatted with his back against the wall and covered his face. I went to hit him on the side of the face, he'd move his hands, his arms, and then I'd kick at him a little bit, and I'm like, you know what? I'm like, this is going to be a fair fight, and you and I are going to take care of this at this point. I go to try and pick him up, and he wouldn't get up. He wanted to act like a tough. He wanted to threaten people and bully people. Then he needed to fight. Like I said, I was afraid of the guy. I didn't want to fight him. I thought he'd kick my you-know-what. But I fought him. I didn't have a choice. You live in that situation, you're going to get into fights. And a lot of them, the staff will never see. And if you go and you tell the staff, then you get in trouble, the other person doesn't. And like I said, there's violence in those dorms every day. It's just a sad, sad reality. And it's not always by the other kids. A lot of the violence is by the staff against the kids. The staff initiated that. But, if you work in a place like that and you're working around kids, you better understand what you're dealing with. First of all, you're dealing with kids, and they may drive you mad. But if you can't handle that, then you don't need to be working with them. Second, you're dealing with a lot of kids who have a lot of problems. Some of them are pretty damn bad. A lot of those kids came from very violent backgrounds. And you need to understand that. Some of those kids may have been there for sexually assaulting other kids or other people. If they were kids or adults, I don't know. That was pretty common. Sexual assault was really common. And there was usually violence or manipulation involved. But I'm not going to get into that. But so on the point of key, is there something there? I don't know, but I tend to want to believe in it, but I don't know. I really don't. When I was a fighter, that was long before I took any martial arts, except when I did it as a kid on Okinawa. I was just a fighter. I was just good at it, and didn't like it, but I was good at it. That was sadly the way I had to live. And let me tell you, when you're a little boy and you're 7 or 8 years old and you're being raped and you're being beaten and you're being forced to fight on a daily or weekly basis, it's going to screw up your life. It's going to screw up your mind big time. And I hear these crazies, because we saw one of the crazies today. I didn't say anything, but we saw one of them. Pretty little girlfriend he had. How does a crazy nut like that get a pretty girlfriend? She better check herself, because his master, his lord, his leader, whatever it is to it. I know your dear leader likes to have orgies and spread STDs, so you better tell your girlfriend that you were in several bisexual orgies with your leader, and that you probably contracted STDs and therefore probably transferred them to her. So you better make sure she gets checked out, and you too. But then again, I don't really care about you. But her, you better get her checked out, or have her get checked out. But anyway, so like I said, I've never knocked anybody out. Never come close to it, as far as I know. I've hurt some people. Hurt one guy. Single punch. One punch, and I sent him to the hospital. I'll never live that one down. And he was somebody I normally would not have had any problems with. Not had any problems. I hurt him pretty darn bad too. A couple of people I've talked to, they know who I'm talking about. They know him. But sadly, nobody knows how to get in touch with him, and I've tried to look him up myself. I can't find him. Anyway, so I lived in that very violent setting, so physically and sexually violent, off and on for many years. I learned ways of coping. Those ways of coping work inside. They don't work outside. You can't just grab somebody by the wrist, or by the neck, or by the arm, and demand they do something. It doesn't work that way. And maybe they shouldn't do it anyway. You cannot walk up to somebody and hit them for no apparent reason. On the outside, out here in the real world, you have to learn how to deal with people. And when you disagree, you don't physically fight. You simply agree to disagree. You have a verbal argument. You cut it off until all sides can calm down, and then you come back at it again. And you talk it through. You yell. You can yell and scream, but that's usually not the best way. But when you grow up the way I grew up, it can screw your life up for many, many years, for many decades. So I'm going back to middle school when I started being a real a-hole. And I can go back to elementary school when the abuse started. Some people might not like this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Because of the abuse, because of the hell that I experienced as a child and into my teens and early adulthood, I hated this country. I didn't dislike this country. I hated this country. I hated Texas, and I hated the United States. Hated, past tense. I know the nut jobs in Keene and their allies are going to take what I just said and twist it all around. They do that kind of stuff all the time. All I want to do was go back home to Spain. Life was relatively good. You know, I mean, relatively, considering the situation. I mean, we were in a somewhat safe situation because of who we knew, because who we were related to, who we knew, but we weren't safe enough that we could get away with living your daily life like you do here in the United States. We weren't that safe. If we would have gotten into any real trouble, that would have been the end of it for all of us. And frankly, getting into real trouble under Franco wasn't hard to do. All you had to do was say somebody said something. They didn't have to say it. You just say, "Oh, that dude over there, hey, Colonel, you know, whatever rank of the Guardia Civil, the Civil Guard in American English, Guardia Civil goes, you say, hey, you know, that dude over there, he just said Franco is a piece of shit." You know, you can get shot in Spain for doing that. You can get shot. Somebody could say you said it, and you get shot. Somebody could say you said something like that, you go to prison for the rest of your life, or you would go to prison for a few days and never be seen again. People want to complain about the way the police are over here. So, but as for the martial arts that I've taken, they've proven useful, if you will. American Kempo, Ed Parker's Kempo, whatever you want to call it, I loved it. Used a few techniques, but not very many. But then I didn't go all that far in it. Wing Chun, I used modified forms of both some Kempo and some Wing Chun techniques before I knew what they were. And it's just, you know, as a fighter, as a street fighter, so to speak, a dorm fighter. I was a dorm fighter, not a street fighter. You know, you learn how to do things, and if you know or don't know that there is some sort of fighting skill, fighting art, martial art, fighting technique, all you know is that it keeps you alive, right? The other thing I wanted to talk about was pain. You know, I talked about Vital Points and George Dillman, or whatever his name is. With all the fights I got into, at least as a teenager, I don't remember the pain. I could look at my face after a fight in the mirror, and it was all puffy, maybe even black and blue. But during the fight, I didn't notice it. It wasn't there. I couldn't pay attention to the pain. I had to pay attention to the fight. If I didn't pay attention to the fight, I was going to lose. If I paid attention to how much I may or may not have hurt, and I'm sure some of those kids punched me pretty darn hard. And you know, your best bet was to get into a fight when there were no staff around. Because if a staff saw you fight, you got into more trouble. I mean, if the staff saw you fight, you got into more trouble than if they knew you were in a fight but didn't actually see it. Then again, like I said, you know, the staff would instigate fights between kids. Staff would attack kids, sometimes one-on-one, usually as a group, because they knew how tough some of these kids were, and they weren't going to take any risk of them getting hurt. when you have male staff that are over 6 feet tall, and it takes 3 or 4 of them to take a female, whatever, inmate, student, person, from one dorm to the next to put into an isolation cell, does that tell you something about the kind of people we had? And this one particular incident, this girl was not very big. You know, she was a small built woman, and it took how many staff just to walk her across to another dorm, put her in a cell. She was obviously pretty darn calm, so obviously she didn't need to be there. You know, the mind of the staff in those places doesn't work quite right. Otherwise they wouldn't be working there. When they close one of those places down and the staff just go on to work in other places, you haven't fixed the problem. You need those abusive staff in prison. And you need there are going to be some staff that no matter what, they're going to abuse. But there are some staff that if they realize that they will, or there is the possibility that they will go to jail or prison, then they won't do anything. Or they won't do as much. They won't do as much harm. They hire really a lot of the wrong kind of staff to work in those places. And when the staff are bullying other staff and getting into fights off campus with other staff, when you have staff coming to campus with guns, trying to chase another staff member down, that's pretty darn. And you see this, you grew up with this. This is normal. This is your normal freaking life. For years and years, this is what you experience. That's what you think is normal. You get out and you're on the streets and you're like, people don't act that way out here. And you don't have the skills, the coping skills to deal with real life. And I'll tell you something. It can take decades to figure it out. And you may never figure it all out. So after listening to this, can you understand why I like existentialism so much? You know, the absurdity of life, all of a sudden something just happens. And then other stuff, they just seem to happen sometimes randomly. Sometimes it's the direction of something, a thing goes. And it's like that, point A, getting from point A to point B, there, it makes absolutely no sense how you got to point B. But you got there. Anyway, I guess this is stuff I wanted to get off my mind, get off my chest. So I have the surgery coming up. Oh, and another thing I wanted from my sister, Lizzie Borden. Lizzie Borden had an axe. She, chopped her mother 40 times, chopped her dad 50 times, or I don't remember the poem. Lizzie Borden down in Falls River, Massachusetts, which is on the other side of Massachusetts from us. We're Massachusetts, so you go that way, and then go that way, and you're in Winchendon in like 5-10 minutes. You're in Winchendon. That's the toy capital of Massachusetts. I don't think they make toys there anymore, but they have a humongous rocking chair on the town common. What's a town common? My daughter, my sister, you may not know what town commons are. As of all the decades I lived in Texas, I never saw a town common. Never even heard of one. And my family is from like everywhere. From Spain and Germany, France, Ireland, Scotland, Canada, the United States, Australia, probably New Zealand. And I don't think I had ever heard of a town common. Oh, also in England. Well, I usually don't like to mention that. But town common is really simple, straightforward. Think back to the American Revolution when the patriots, when the militia were called out each week or each month, depending on what was going on at the time, where they happened to live, how far away they lived, they would practice on the common. They would march and do drills on the common. All the common is like a common yard, a pitch of land, a yard, a pitch, a field. It's like somebody's yard, but it belongs to the town. Your house is not attached to the town common. Our town common has a street that goes all the way around it, but not every common has that. Some commons won't. Maybe there'll be a walkway. It's just an area that is relatively easy to access, relatively close to the center of town or near the town hall, and it's just a yard. There's grass growing there. There may be a gazebo. There may be monuments there. We have a monument to World War I and World War II. Well, actually, it's to all veterans. We have but I think it starts with World War I and goes up to today. There's also a monument to the man that the song Phantom 309 was based after. He was from right here in Troy, New Hampshire. Phantom 309. Phantom 309. But yeah, there are, that's where you would put statues and monuments, gazebos. A few times a year, like 4th of July, Veterans Day, Memorial Day, whatever, we'll have events on the common. It's basic common. It's for everyone. It's the common place. It's a place that anyone can go. Parents take their children there. People walk their pets. Backpackers who are on the Monadnock Comet Trail, is that the name of it? Anyway, it goes from, I think, down in Mass, and it comes through town, and then it goes all the way over to Mount Monadnock, and I don't know where it goes from there. The Metacomet Trail, I think that's what it is, Metacomet Trail. So you'll see backpackers over there. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 businesses that I can think of that front the common. The town hall fronts the common. If you want to say the police station fronts the common, the ambulance fronts the common, or not police. Fire station is further away, but the fire station. I don't know how they do it in this town, and it's not just this town. When I lived in Alief, Texas, it was the same way. We had volunteer fire department and ambulance corps. These people are having to come from work and home and wherever. And one of the stepsons is a firefighter. And they're having, like I said, they're having to come from home or from work or from whatever. They have to go from wherever they are to either where the ambulance is kept or where the fire department is, and then go to wherever the call is. Don't ask me how they do it, but they get their lickety split. They are fast. I remember when I had my first heart attack. It felt like it was taking hours and hours for EMS to show up. It probably took a minute or two. 1 or 2 minutes. again, these people are coming from everywhere. This is a rural area, semi-rural area, rural, semi-rural. And for all I know, people were having to come from Keene and Fitzwilliam and Rindge. But they're there, you know, they are there. And it's not just that, it's the people in this town care about each other, so we take care of each other, which I like. That's something else I like about. Come on, John. Oh, John boy. You got to see a John cat butt, didn't they? Yeah. John says that's what they deserve. Do they deserve that, John? Do they deserve that? Okay. So, yeah, so I talked about Key, talked about violence, talked about child abuse, talked about my surgery, my EKG. I guess that's what. Oh. So I guess that's all I have to say. I'm gonna trim this before my surgery. And what I was doing when I was at getting my EKG done, that girl's hair was so far out. I asked her if she used to have dreads, and she said, no, my hair is just like super curly. I'm like, oh, cool, because it kind of looks like she used to have dreads, like she was trying to get rid of them. But, okay, this is what they told us when we were up there. Not the girl from the hospital, but my wife. I can shave my beard up to like to where my chin is. So I can keep like this much of my beard. But I'm afraid it would look really, really weird if I did that. So I'm not going to do it now. I'm not going to do it. You know, they said I need to cut and shave. Here's another beard hair. You know, the birds use these to make nests. They're everywhere in New Hampshire now. But I'm just gonna. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put something around it. You know, like put a tie. And my wife used to buy these elastic ties, and she would tie it up for me. She used to braid it as well. That's a good thing to do, is braid it and then cut it off. But I'm gonna tie it up, and then I'm gonna have to cut all of it off. And I'm not gonna like that. What has it been? 8-9 years since I've been growing this, and Carolyn is gonna come back, and I hope she doesn't haunt me. Hon, if you're gonna haunt somebody, haunt the doctor, haunt the nurse, not me, okay? And please. You said you would come back and kill anybody that cut it off, even me, so please don't haunt or kill me. And don't kill anybody, please, but you can haunt the doctor and nurses. That's okay. Although, it'd be nice if you didn't, at least not until after my surgery. After, then you can haunt them. But they're actually very nice people there, so I don't think I have anything else to say. I'm looking at what these other videos are. Anyway, have a good day. Enjoy your life. Far out.